It feels great to be back on Facebook Live. We've been away for several weeks, and I am excited to be back, to be live. Didn't really get a chance to promote tonight like we've been accustomed to doing over the last week or so, building up to tonight. But we did put a couple of posts on the page earlier this evening and just got finished with getting lunch ready for tomorrow and putting the kids down. I got the oldest upstairs doing some dishes. So no special guest song tonight, but nonetheless, I'm excited to be back live. I'm excited for another episode, another installment, episode 8, 2 away from double digits, episode 8 of Am I Still a Christian? And very excited that you all continue to share the videos, you continue to comment on the videos. And I did promise that we would be doing some new things over the coming weeks, that we would be introducing some new content. So we've just been exploring the various um, uh, resources available to us across a number of different social media platforms. You may have noticed that we are putting things on Instagram. We're putting, different fashion combinations, really as a way to reach out and encourage, in particular, young men that are coming up, want to look professional in the workplace, but also still want to maintain a sense of identity, want to distinguish themselves, but want to remain professional in the process. And so we've been putting up a number of different combinations that I wear to work. I mean, what you're seeing is you're seeing me on my way to the office or in the office, and doing that just as a way, again, to inspire, to serve as a muse for my brothers out there, of all backgrounds and of all education and experience levels. I think what we put together are things that are very obtainable for anyone, and we'll start to even talk about how to piece together a fashion conscious professional wardrobe so that you can continue to make strong impressions and statements in the office, depending on kind of the nature of your work. So we've been doing a little bit more in Instagram. We continue to be very focused with the message that we put on Facebook, and again, the feedback has been great. We put a couple of videos. I put a couple of videos up throughout the last couple of weeks talking about love in action. And so don't forget to send me your submissions. If you have examples, if you have instances in your life throughout the day, throughout the week, where there are examples of love in action, please submit those, send those to me. I am on Messenger. You can reach me through Messenger. You can certainly, write in my timeline. Tag me in something. Absolutely, if there's a video, even if it is not necessarily generated by you, if you happen to come across a video that demonstrates, that reflects love in action, absolutely feel free to tag me in that. We'll take a look and share that with with others. We are in the process of putting together an Am I Still a Christian page where these videos will live, where we will be we'll have an opportunity with some very focused conversation and content, somewhere where you can go so you don't have to weed through and sift through a bunch of other stuff in your timeline. If you're wanting to know what's happening with Am I Still a Christian, if you're wanting to engage in a conversation, if there's a prayer request, if there's a comment that you had, if there's a question that you wanted to share, we will be launching that page shortly, so that we have a spot to do that and a place to do that. And we'll continue to be live. We'll continue to be live. We're still going to hold on to the bi-weekly schedule for the time being. We have been exploring and talking about and thinking about if we're ready to go weekly. And, I don't think that we're there just yet, but we'll continue to go live and to engage those of you that are benefiting from this. So I see some folks are on, and we got through some of the preliminaries. So really excited about tonight. Tonight it was a challenging topic to put together for me, not because the subject matter is particularly difficult. It's not particularly difficult subject matter. It is challenging subject matter, but it's also been taught about quite a bit. It's been discussed quite a bit. I think we do have a fresh perspective on it. I think we do have a fresh take on it. And you can't really talk about love, and you can't really talk about love in action without talking about forgiveness. And so tonight we're going to talk about forgiveness. We're going to talk about the work of forgiveness and the power of forgiveness, and what forgiveness does, and the impact that it can have. And so I think it's always helpful to start with a definition in a situation like this, so that we're operating on the same a level playing field. We're all singing from the same sheet of music, if you will, so that we're all on the same page. And if I look over at the Vine's Expository Dictionary of New Testament Words, this is a resource that's made available by blueletterbible.org. If you haven't checked out that resource, highly recommend it. Most of us are familiar with YouVersion, the Bible app. Blue Letter Bible is a website, blueletterbible.org. It's one of my go-tos. There are lots of great study resources here. Highly recommend that you check it out. And so they have a dictionary resource called Vine's Expository Dictionary. And so when you select forgive or forgiveness, it provides the following definition. It denotes, besides its other meanings, to remit. To remit. It also has to do, it signifies with the remission of a punishment due to sinful conduct, the deliverance of the sinner from the penalty divinely and therefore righteously imposed. It also has to do with the complete removal of the cause of the offense. Now, we're familiar with the idea, the concept of the forgiveness of sins. That Christ going to Calvary was to forgive, was to remit or remove the sin that we were born with, that stain, that blemish that we brought with us into the world. And so Calvary kind of wipes that out. It wipes the slate clean. There's another interesting aspect to forgiveness, to the word or the term forgiveness, and it's a monetary definition. It has to do with forgiving or eliminating a debt. And there are a number of examples of or anecdotes or proverbs in the Bible. One in particular, the one that I think sticks out for a lot of us that have read the Bible with any kind of regularity, is the story of the rich man's servant. And so there's a rich man who has a number of servants, a number of slaves under his management. Remember, the institution of slavery as it was introduced and maintained in the Middle East during that time period, very, very different than the slavery that was introduced and utilized throughout the Caribbean, West Indies, and Americas. But so there was a slave that was in debt to his master, a financial sum that essentially equated to an amount that he was not going to be able to pay. I mean, we're not, this exceeded kind of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Wells Fargo. This amount was, in effect, it was going to be impossible for him to pay it. And he goes to his master, and he essentially throws himself at his master's feet and begs his mercy and says, "Master, there's no way that I'm going to pay it. There's not enough time. I don't make enough. I couldn't save enough. This debt is impossible for me to repay." And so the master ponders for a moment and forgives the debt, wipes the debt out as if it never existed. And then the story goes on, the proverb goes on to talk about how then this slave who had been forgiven this insurmountable debt then goes and finds one of his a fellow slave, one of the other individuals that's under contract to this landowner who happened to owe him. So, one slave owed another slave, and the slave that had just been forgiven goes to collect the debt from the slave that owed him, and the second slave similarly is not able to pay. It's not the same amount, but he's still unable to pay, and he asks for forgiveness. Now, you would think, kind of immediately, having just been the recipient of forgiveness and of considerable forgiveness, that the original or the first slave would have compassion and show mercy to his fellow slave, to the second slave. And in fact, the exact opposite happens. The original slave, the first slave, beats the second slave and throws him in jail for not being able to repay his debt. The master gets wind of it. As you can imagine, he blows his top and ends up arresting and imprisoning the first slave, releasing the second slave because the first slave's rebellion and wicked heart. And, so long anecdote, but the point that I wanted to make is that forgiveness kind of covers a variety of categories and subject matter. And why is it so important in the context of love? What we've been discussing over the last several weeks. Forgiveness is essential to love, because in order to love, in order to effectively love someone else, we have to be willing to wipe the slate clean when there are occasions of offense, when there are occasions of a debt, whether that debt is financial or emotional. And there are times where we feel that we are owed emotional recompense from those that we love. Parents, and I know if my mother's watching, or if she hears about this at some point, she'll be amening all the time. But parents, think about there is an emotional debt that you feel owed by your children, that your children have an emotional responsibility to maintain some kind of contact, especially as they get older and they move out. You want them to call, you want them to text, you want them to Skype, to maintain some kind of a level of communication in order to continue to just grow and maintain the relationship. And we are not, speaking as a grown child, we are not always great at that. And so there absolutely could be an occasion where, as a parent, there is what you would feel owed as an emotional debt, as that sense of respect and gratitude. I raised you, I nurtured you, I wiped your boo-boos, I put you through school, I helped you get set up. The least you could do, right? The least you could do is call or write or stop by or what have you, any number of things. And when that doesn't happen with the regularity that we expect or that we hoped or that we anticipated that it would, there's a debt. Now, as parents, generally, you're not going to have a hard time forgiving your children, generally, but, we're all human. But that's an example of a debt. That's an example of an opportunity where forgiveness becomes the activity to represent your love. That's an example that's kind of easy. There are much harder examples out there. And I certainly don't want to trigger anyone's trauma, but when we think about acts of violence, when we think about acts of violation, when we think about criminal acts, when we think about betrayal and betrayal of trust and all the different forms, then that can come in. I mean, I simply just have to look at the headlines and, say, Catholic Church scandal in Pennsylvania, and many of us know exactly what I'm referring to. And so we still have a responsibility to live out the love of Christ, which means forgiving. Now, here's the interesting part about forgiveness, and this is where I say it's been taught on and it's been shared so many times. And so many of us may have heard, that there was an old expression, forgive and forget. And I have been in teachings, and I have had the opportunity to sit under some teachings where there has been some revelation, there's been some changing to that concept. And so forgive doesn't mean you forget. Forgive doesn't even necessarily mean that you go back to trusting right away. What does forgiveness mean? Forgiveness means you have wiped the slate clean, that the emotional debt, the financial debt, the recompense that you feel owed as a result of that act, that crime, that trauma, you no longer seek to receive. You don't look for it. That's what forgiveness means. That you are no longer in a position where you are seeking anything as a result of the offense, as a result of the debt, whatever the debt is. I'm owed decency. I'm owed an apology. I'm owed justice. That you personally. Now, I think here's the important thing to keep in mind, that individuals that are that have survived or that are living through trauma, those individuals, it's absolutely within your right, and there is an expectation that you participate in the justice system that is a part of our civilization. It's a part of our society. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to participate in the system of justice, even if you've forgiven the individual. What it means is that your participation is not motivated by seeing something happen to the individual. And that's the hard part. And trust me when I tell you, I understand. I have not experienced the kind of trauma, the kind of pain that some of the closest people in my life have experienced and survived. So when I say, trust me, I understand, I certainly understand from an empathetic perspective, not a sympathetic perspective. I've certainly endured some challenging situations, some hard times in my life, certainly, but not to the extent of others. But what I'm saying is, when you forgive, which is your responsibility as an envoy, as a representative, as an ambassador of love, in this world, and especially if you are someone that considers yourself a disciple of Christ, then you are absolutely a disciple of love in this world. If you are going to live that out, forgiveness is an inseparable part of that. You don't get to love and not forgive. And if you're going to forgive, that means wiping the slate clean. Now, can you swear under oath and give your testimony in a court of law as part of an ongoing criminal investigation? Yes, you absolutely can. And you should. But you are not personally seeking out that punishment. You're not seeking out that vengeance. You're not seeking out that recompense. And that's the challenge. That's the difficult part. And I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that that's a difficult part. And so therefore, that's why forgiveness is so hard. Because I don't know that it, for many of us, I don't know that it's something that can happen so quickly after the offense has occurred. Now, some people are able to turn the page really quick, and God bless those individuals. Others of us are not able to move on that quickly. We need some time. We need some time to sit with it, but we can't stay there. We can't stay there, guys. We can't get stuck. And that is my call to arms for us tonight, is that if we are going to be love ambassadors in this world, if we're going to win over hate through love, and if we are going to promote righteousness and peace and unity and collaboration, and we're going to do that through love, forgiveness has to be an active part of that. Forgiveness has got to be an active part of that. Being able to embrace someone that has wronged you is absolutely a part of that. That doesn't have to come right away. The forgiveness part is kind of wiping the slate clean, and then there's continual growth that happens after that. You know, there's a healing process that's involved. There's a restorative process that's involved, and you want to go through all the steps to be healed yourself, to be fully healed yourself. Absolutely 1,000%, absolutely 1,000%. But you're not off the hook to forgive and to love through forgiveness. That cup we can't remove. We can't take that cup away. That's the cup we all have to drink from if we're gonna spread the joy. If we're gonna share the joy by spreading the love. If we're gonna be ambassadors in this world. If we're gonna buck the trend, and we're not gonna engage in biting and vindictive back and forth. If we're going to try to lift ourselves and lift our families and lift our communities above the fray, and kind of pull ourselves up out of the muck, and have a discourse that's respectful, and have a discourse that promotes understanding, and that promotes open-mindedness, and that seeks to find commonality, that seeks to build bridges. If we're going to be a part of that, forgiveness is essential. It's essential. And I believe that with time and with support, and most importantly, with the backing of our Lord and Savior, we can do it. We can get there. I honestly believe that we can get there. And you know what? Forgiveness is not exclusive to Christianity. You know, it exists throughout the world. I want us to be at the forefront. Absolutely. You know, I want us to be, you know, kind of role models to our brothers and sisters throughout the world, and all along the faith spectrum. But we're not the only ones that are capable of forgiveness. But we can lead the way. We can lead the way. We should lead the way. We should be examples. We should be examples to others in the world, that what love in action looks like, and it looks like forgiveness. So I appreciate you spending some time with me. We're just at about the 25-minute mark. Didn't want to go too far into a half hour or more than a half hour. Wanted to share some thoughts. Wanted to lay the groundwork and the foundation for future conversations. But again, I'm so grateful for those of you that tune in. If you pop in and out for a couple minutes, understand we are going with a longer format. We did get some advice and some suggestions to go with a longer format, to give people an opportunity to really kind of sink their teeth in, and give folks something to talk about. And so, I'm grateful. I did see that there's some comments, so appreciate those of you that have joined in, and I think it's awesome. Question from my friend Jennifer Fields: what makes forgiving others feel so impossible? Asking for divine grace will of course help in God's time, but how to radically accept the offense that has been done to you that can lead to forgiveness is so very hard to operationalize. That I think it's a powerful statement, and a really important question. And so what does it look like? And that's one of the things that's been very important for me on this leg of my faith journey, is how do I take these ethereal, these sometimes metaphorical, sometimes abstract, celestial, very high-minded concepts, and how do we live them out? And so I think one of the ways that we can begin to use your words, Jen, operationalize, one of the ways that we can unpack forgiveness and walk through it, and to help others to walk through forgiveness, especially after a dramatically traumatic episode, traumatic event, traumatic season in their life. And I will say with love and boldness, that even if your trauma has lasted years, you too, yes ma'am, yes sir, you too are still on the hook to forgive. How do we do that? We do that a piece at a time. We do it a piece at a time. And particularly if the offense, if the debt is layered, if the debt is multifaceted, we start by forgiving a piece at a time. We may not be in the position as the wealthy landowner that was able to forgive his slaves' entire debt in one swoop, and just kind of write that off. We may not have the emotional capacity. We may not have the emotional fortitude. We may not have the support system in place to wipe the slate clean in one fell swoop. And so in some instances, we have to do it a little bit at a time. But the other thing that I would say is that one of the ways that you're going to radically forgive, especially in the event of a great debt or a trauma, is that you're going to do it with support. You're going to do it with help. And if you haven't been blessed with a built-in support system biologically or geographically in terms of proximity, then you're going to go find help through a variety of agencies and organizations that are set up to support individuals that have survived and suffered and have made it through a trauma and need that help. And there are a number of individuals that are in my network, a part of my network, that I would be happy to connect you with. You, the general you, the universal you, that may be looking for that kind of support. But that's how we're going to forgive kind of a life altering event or trauma, is we're going to do it a little bit at a time, and we're going to do it with support. We're going to do it with help. And that's how we'll get through it. So, Jen, thank you so much for the question and the comment. Really appreciate that. If there are others, as we start to wrap up, if there are others, please go ahead and fill in a comment. You can certainly comment after the video. We do go back after the video, after the live session has ended. Once we post the video, we do go back and read through if there are additional comments and respond to those, and really love to keep the conversation going. So feel free to join in. I gotta show some love to some of my people back home. My buddy Cleon joined us for a period of time. This is the brother that when I did have hair, y'all, it wasn't always like this. When I did have hair, this is the brother who used to cut my hair down the street. I'm really glad to see that he joined in. Uncle Obellamia, Michael Obellamia, one of my teachers at Roxbury Latin, who's gone on in leadership capacity and is head of school back in Massachusetts. So glad to see that brother joined us for a little bit. Love that guy. Jonathan Jones, my god brother. We just got connected through Facebook a couple weeks ago. Actually, I think he had hit me up, and really glad to be connected with him. So, big shout out to Boston. Boston is in the building. Appreciate you all helping us out, and always glad to see Cal and Tina and Leo. Thank you guys. Brantz, oh man, Leroy Brantley, Brantz is in the building. This is exciting. Another one of my former teachers. Love this guy, former Patriot. And I mean, this guy was a fitness machine. I think I saw that he was dropping off one of his sons to college not too long ago. So, Brantley, I'm so glad to see that you're doing well, man. Miss you, love you. Thank you for jumping on and showing us some support, and to all of you, if you're on for a couple minutes or on the whole time, you know what, we're building something, we're doing something. Do not despise small beginnings, right? That's what the book says. Don't despise small beginnings. So you continue to support me and push me. I'm going to continue to make sure that I bring something that's worth your time, bring something that you can talk about, that you can think about. Most importantly, bring something that will hopefully help to evolve, change, grow your mindset. So I appreciate it. We will be posting the video to my timeline shortly. Please share. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, where I also post content, just go to youtube.com, look up my name, Charles Botts, and subscribe to the channel. We post the videos there as well. A little bit easier to share the videos outside of the Facebook universe using YouTube as opposed to trying to share outside of Facebook within Facebook. And we also, add other content to the YouTube channel as well. So if you haven't yet subscribed there, do that. Otherwise, love you guys. God bless you guys. Be safe. Continue to engage. Continue to send your comments, your prayer requests. And most importantly, continue to share in the joy by spreading the love. Take care, guys.